You Watchers and You Holy Ones by Rafael F. Ramos, read by Rafael F. Ramos. Chapter 1. To These Dark Steps. Zoe Fitzpatrick had written off Lillian Adebayo when she disappeared from class after the first 4 days into the short summer session. 2 weeks later, she saw Lillian's name in an administrative email as one of the students who dropped her British literature class. She thought nothing of it. Nearly 15 years of teaching had given Zoe healthy, thick skin, until she saw Lillian in her office doorway, a quiet woman from Nigeria who had not said one word in discussion in the brief time she was in class. At first she didn't recognize her, but then recalled the email and then her face. "Yes, Lillian?" Zoe asked, all the while wondering why she was there. "Professor Fitzpatrick," Lillian declared in her soft, lilting voice, "I just wanted to explain why I had to drop your class." "Oh, no, that's all right." "No," her now former student interrupted in earnest. "I do not want you to think poorly of me. I really wanted to take this class and finish it, but I had to return to my country." She paused. Zoe waited. "My grandfather was dying, and I wanted to see him one last time." "Ah," Zoe responded, trying to sound sympathetic, even though she thought the dying grandparent excuse. As if reading her thoughts, Lillian said, "I tried to follow the syllabus and keep up with the readings while away, and I must thank you for this work that you have signed, Samson Agonistes." "Oh?" Zoe asked, taken aback. Then, before Lillian faced what was clearly skepticism on Zoe's part, she straightened her shoulders like her schoolgirl days in the British school, and she recited, her eyes concentrating on Zoe. "A little onward lend thy guiding hand, to these dark steps a little further on, for yonder bank hath choice of sun or shade. There I am wont to sit, when any chance but relieve me from my task of servile toil. Daily in the common prison else enjoined me. Where I, a prisoner chained, scarcely freely draw, they am imprisoned also, close and damp. Unwholesome draught, but here I feels amends, the breath of heaven fresh blowing, pure and sweet. With dayspring born, here I leave me to respire." Zoe stared back, as this was the first time any student of hers took the time to memorize anything from the readings, especially a student who no longer had need to memorize anything at all for her. "I must thank you, Professor," Lillian continued, carefully choosing her words, "because when my grandfather died 1 week after I returned back to my village, I was tasked to give his eulogy, and I had your reading to give, for I had read it on the long flight there. That part was easy to remember because it reminded me of my grandfather. He was blind in a war long ago in my country, and for years he felt useless to his family and his people because of his blindness. But precisely because of his blindness, he was able to have time for his children. I remember him as a wise man, sitting under his favorite tree, telling us children stories of the old ways before the English came." She smiled sadly. "So, Professor, it is the words of a dead blind Englishman that reminded me of the nobility of my grandfather, and it is the words of that blind Milton that bade my grandfather good-bye." I'm so sorry for your loss, Lillian." Lillian dipped her head slightly. "Thank you. I am sorry I could not finish your class. I hear good things about you on campus, but family must come first." "Of course. Yes. Will you be teaching the same class in the fall?" "What? Oh, yes, I will." "Then I will see if I can take it again, if that is okay with you, if it fits my work schedule." "Of course. Thank you, Professor." Lillian dipped her head one more time and then walked away from the doorway. Zoe stared at the empty doorway, suddenly realizing that Lillian would have been her best student. Family. Right, family. When that British literature class ended, a class marred with too many absences and lack of discussion because the handful of students who did show up hadn't done the reading, Zoe's summer break officially began. Yet she continued to come to El Centro College to toil away in her little office, organizing papers, making adjustments to her curriculum, researching methods to make her classes better, and writing recommendation letters because, unlike Lillian, she had no family. "You're still here?" was a universal response from anyone who saw her on campus, from the administrative assistant to the dean to fellow faculty members who were actually teaching the second summer session. Even after nearly crashing into a homeless man on the sidewalk outside of the main college building, Zoe continued to come on campus in the name of next semester's class preparation. "Do you have any special plans for the summer?" one of the new adjunct instructors had asked, making small talk over the workroom coffee machine as it was brewing. "Not really." Zoe stared at the coffee machine, willing it to brew faster. "No significant other?" "No." "Kids?" her new co-worker persisted. "No." "Parents? Siblings? Family?" "Only if you count my cat, and she's pretty low maintenance." "Hobbies? Does reading literature for my classes count?" Her co-worker, a perky young woman with blonde highlights and an eyebrow stud, shook her head. "You're like a nun in the Church of Academia." Zoe only shrugged. "I'm cool with that." She shook her head again. "You're full-time. If I were you, I'd enjoy my summer vacation." Later that night, Zoe thought about her words as she got ready for bed. She thought about Lillian and her lilting voice reciting the words of Milton with bittersweet confidence. With her cat curled up next to her, she reread that passage of Samson Agonistes and let an old familiar sadness wash over her. "Ah, well," she said to her empty room, her empty home. She set down her book, switched off the end table lamp, and fell asleep. Not too soon after, the dreams came again.